Morning, church. Morning, our viewers. Welcome yet to our another program, the Empowerment Studio Service. We want to thank you so much for joining us this morning. I hope you will be informed. We want to appreciate God this morning for this time. We also want to appreciate our pastors for this program, the Empowerment Studio. You know, always we learn about the verses and the Bible, but we want to appreciate our senior pastors who have given us this opportunity as well, even those that are online, so that we can learn, let me call the things of the world, that we might move forward. So we want to appreciate you, want to thank you. Let me also take the opportunity to say, you know what, these studios are really empowerment studios. We want to thank God. I think those that have joined us, even online, for the last 3 sessions, I think you remember the first one. We spoke about poisons, toxicology. It was powerful. We learned a lot there. Then we had the doc here who taught us about, the teeth. It was so educative. And last week, we were talking about personal branding. So it's powerful. If you have missed any one of those, please revisit at Stanley Nevera. Watch all those. I tell you, you will be blessed, because we need this information so that we move forward. Even if as Christians, we are not Christians that are dumb, but also to be empowered, it's powerful. So I want to thank God. Today, yes, we are moving forward with the program today. I've got a guru in mathematics. I've got Mr. Muzondo with me here. We are going to be talking and discussing. We're going also to engage you. Sorry, those viewers, those are online. I know you can't ask questions, but please, if you have got any question, post it on the page at Stanley Nevera. Definitely we will revisit and answer you if you've got a question. Mr. Muzondo, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Madam.
Yes. Before we start, we just want to let you know, why are we doing this, as a church? But these are our empowerment studios. So we want to give one another an opportunity to share what we know, to share with others that what we know, and also to empower others so that they might move forward in their day-to-day living. We also looking at topics of relevance in our life. Most of the time, we are ignorant, or we miss out on the things that we ought to do because we don't know. But we have people inside us who can help us. And also, we've got a lot of experts in here. We've got engineers, professors, doctors, we name it, accountants, business people. So we want to tap into their knowledge so that we also help one another to grow and also make it a business synergy. So if I know I want to open a pharmacy, I know I've got to go to someone in here. There's an engineer who can help us to do things. So we want to create business synergies so that we move forward. So basically, that's why we are doing the Empowerment Studios. We want to be equipped. Hakuna Kristu ari dumb. Even in the Bible, there were physicians, doctors, you name them. So we want also to be learned to move forward. So without wasting much time, we want to move to the topic of the day, the relevance of mathematics. I know if I say mathematics, many people would say, oh, I hated that subject. But it's very, very relevant in our lives. So today, I've got Mr. Muzondo to help us understand. We will try to be as I don't know what to say, but we want to understand it from a brief explanation from Mr. Muzondo. Firstly, sir, if you just maybe let us know, what is mathematics?
That's a very difficult question. I think if you recall, I don't know whether when we went to school in Form 1, the first thing would be taught was definitions of every subject you do. The teachers would come up with a definition, which that was like your first line, which you'd write in that particular subject. Yeah. But if you just flash back and say, do you recall writing anything in this particular subject area, you realize you were not provided with a definition to start with. I don't recall getting one from my teacher. But however, when you started studying mathematics, unfortunately, the first thing you tend to meet are just number concepts. So because of the way it's structured, you're starting from grade 1, ECD, wherever it is, and the issue that they present to you is number concepts as it develops. So we learn to count Then we do a bit of arithmetics, addition, subtraction, which then develops in shapes come into the picture. You start learning a bit of geometry and things like that. So obviously maths has to do with some of these things, but it's more than that. At the end of the day, for me, it was a shock when I went to university in my first year. I then realized I never got to use a calculator in any single lesson because the addition, multiplication, and stuff that I needed a calculator for was gone. And then you find yourself now writing essays and kind of things, and so, okay, that's not my idea of what mathematics was. So at the end of the day, mathematics is just ideas, which we use in a lot of things. Key to mathematics is problem solving. So whenever it comes to the concept of wanting to solve a problem, you normally invoke mathematical concepts in different aspects, in different ways. They come in there. You might not actually appreciate that you're actually using mathematics. Most of the reasoning, logic, is part of what we teach in mathematics. Being able to analyze. So you find at university, if you're studying pure mathematics, one of the topics you actually face to learn is analysis. It's a key topic which goes up to your final year. You will have a course in that aspect where you are learning to read between the lines, you apply logic. So then they'll be teaching you things like proofs. When you're talking of mathematical proof, what they're teaching you is you stick to your, whenever I bring in a concept, the first thing you want to say is, what is it? It has to come with definitions. Then you are now trying to look at the given situation. Does it meet those properties that are in this particular definition for you to quantify that, yes, this is okay. So in maths, you have these acceptable things.
Okay, so we want to bring it down. I hear you. In my today running of life, how do I apply mathematics?
You have applied it a lot. Well, we know there are basic things which everyone do. We add, subtract. So anything we use for finances, we're playing around with the basic things you learn in junior school. But there are some things we take for granted. Maybe my engineer friend here will make you appreciate. When we're in like Form 3, I recall there are things we take for granted. Or maybe I actually also blame my colleagues in the industry of teaching the subject, which do not make people realize, why are we even learning these things? Because there are a lot of things we have studied in school, which at times you wonder, why are we even doing this? Where does it fit into my life? Especially in maths, there are some things which we learn. So we're not going to higher mathematics, abstract stuff. We're just going to discuss stuff that you have actually experienced at school. Then we can try and put some relevance into it. You realize you're actually learning to do this. So I was just thinking yesterday when Pastor sent me a message, say, look, consider this. And I was looking at one of the things I remember doing at Form 3. We taught we would bring mathematical instruments, things, the compass, protractor, some short pencil in there, and would be made to do some constructions. They were just called geometric constructions. And I was never told, why am I learning to do this? Does it have, what do I apply it in real life? I saw an interesting situation when we're building the house that we live in. Our stand is not typical rectangular thing. It's a kind of a trapezium. One side is longer than the other, and then the guy who had done the drawing of the house had positioned it in a particular place. So obviously, the engineer was supposed to come and put it exactly where it was. My stand is not one of those big ones. So obviously, he had to place it in such that we don't end up having situations with council in terms of distances from certain areas. So I was very curious looking at the plan and the house with my irregular shaped thing, stand. How is he going to do it? So I was obviously there to see the guy doing it. And then I started seeing him applying those very things we were taught in Form 3 under the topic of locus. We called it locus.
Yes.
He wasn't using the instruments we used in class. He had his peg, a rope, some kind of spring. He was simply positioning the key points by placing, using distances that, okay, this corner is supposed to be that distance from that point, that distance from another point. So you would then just use that, make an arc, go to another position, mark an arc, and he has marked the point. And I was just saying, wow, okay.
This is what we were
I
learning.
learned all this stuff in high school, bisecting things, that drawing how to position a parallel line, like he'd go parallel to some walls where they're supposed to be parallel. I'd never seen these things being applied. And this was something, look, there are a lot of other things I'd seen, but this is something I'd never seen relevance to my life to say, look, why have we even studied this?
Yeah. So you hear that. I hope we are all understanding. Those are online. We are understanding this. This is a bit. I know mathematics is a subject that we don't like, and most people wouldn't like. But as you can hear, there are things that are done in front of you where mathematics is applied, and you wouldn't even think of it. But it's so relevant that when it's done, you should listen. We want to bring it down, Mr. Muzondo,
Okay.
to our day-to-day living as a person in terms of what affects us when we are ignorant of mathematics. What is it that affects us as human beings? Because yes, I know we can lose money, we can lose resources, but what affects us if we are ignorant of mathematics?
It's the choices we make. I still want to just bring it to the same things. I'll come to the issue of money later on, but I wanted to focus on, again, some of the things we're learning in Form 1, 2 again.
Yes.
Because it does tally with what you're bringing up, the concept of decision making. And one of the things I was talking about, I'm looking at, we've got tiles here, ceramic things on the floor. Well, they are stylish. They come in different shapes and sizes. And I was just considering, there are times when you're just trying to do something basic. One of the things you are looking at is you want to save them. You don't want to buy unnecessary, a ridiculous amount. Then they get cut. You get so many wasted pieces. And one of the concepts there, which could make a decision, because when you walk into a shop, of course, you're going to look at the style on it. But one of the variables there, if you look at the tiles, is they come in different sizes. What motivates you to say, okay, I'm going to pick this size? Is it just focusing on the design on the tile? Or what if I find a particular design that I like, what in terms of what's put on the tile itself, and they are in different sizes? What decision am I going to make as to which one should I pick? Because they're the same in terms of the outlook, but they are different sizes. If you don't think much about it and just pick any random thing without putting into consideration where you're going to put them, what you might end up with is they're going to be laid down. The tiler is going to start doing some cuttings, and you're going to have heaps of off cuttings, because you didn't apply mathematical concepts which you were taught in Form 1 and 2.
You hear that? You hear that? So we are making huge losses because we say mathematics. I don't know why we say it's for those that want to do maybe the engineers and stuff, but we are making huge losses. You can go on, Mr. Mzon. I'm now curious how to calculate.
So in Form 1 and 2, basic mathematics, since we are toning it down there, we learn about multiples, factors. These are key things where, if I could define a factor, is a number that divides. So obviously, if this was my room, I know the dimensions of the room. So maybe I've done a rough estimation. That's probably 12 meters. So if I want, of course, we know when you put tiles, if I'm going to be actually very strict, they have to be some spacing between them, which is non-standard spacing. So I know that. So it is very easy to factor the spacing into the size of the tile. So I can say the tile plus the spacing, that will give me the room for one tile. So since I know my width, I can easily, if there's such variety as what I'm going to choose from, I can actually choose the size of tile which will just fit without anything being cut, if I have that freedom. or minimize the cutting. It doesn't quite work out. Likewise, I can also look at the length of the room. If they are square tiles, then we are now bringing in a concept which we learn about called highest common factor. So I'm looking at that length, and I'm looking for a number which can divide into that without leaving a remainder, divide into the side without leaving a remainder, and that's what I'm looking for.
Hey, yeah, that's very profound, Mr. Muzondo. I know when we do these things, we don't even consult. Sometimes we tell the builders, we just want this wall to be done, but they will tell you we want 50 bricks, and where are they coming from? So it's very powerful. I hope you are learning. Are you getting something there? Yes, I think it's very, yes.
I'm glad you've brought in this concept of building, because that's where we actually get cheated a lot. I think my experience of building, I remember I had an argument with one of these guys. We buy pit sand, river sand, and bricks. Pit sand, we buy it in multiples of, I want 5 cubic meters, 10 cubic meters, because that's what's going to be on your quotation. Do you know what 5 cubic meters look like, Mr. Maramba?
You caught me there, because I don't. Yeah.
Because the delivery van is going to come and they're going to flood.
And you don't know.
How do you know they've brought you what you've paid for? But this is a very basic concept we actually learn in junior school. This is not even, I'm sure grade 6s can do these calculations. We learn about volume, because cubic meters are just units for volume. It's just volume in meters, where like we have used dimensions in meters. So it's something where a lorry comes. I remember, like my personal experience, we were buying 10 cubic meters, and then this lorry comes with the said 10 cubic meters, and I'm looking at it and I'm just wondering, this doesn't make sense to me. And then I said, no, you're not going to flood this. I think we need to just do a few checkings here. I like buying equipment, so normally I have things that I'm probably not supposed to be having. So we just did some basic measuring of the lorry in terms of its length, width, and the height. And I told him, look, I can calculate basic things like volume. And your lorry does not have the capacity to carry what you were supposed to have been brought.
Wow. This is basic. As you can hear, it's basic. Basic things that we shun away from. Yes, Mr. Muzondo. I know we might learn. We are going to learn a lot from this. Maybe having said that, these are, I think it also applies to different things, even in the kitchen and all that stuff. I've seen most kitchens having weights where they put tomatoes and what the way they do. So that's all mathematics for you to calculate. We want to talk about something that I think has affected a lot of people in the world, or even some of us who are here and listening. We want to talk about percentages. Issue of percentages, Mr. Muzondo. Okay. Can you share with the people what are percentages? What are we looking at? Because these are simple things that people don't know, but they are really affecting us.
Yeah, I think it's a very important concept, and I want to relate it to money, because that's where we meet these things. We borrow money, or we're lending, whatever is going on. I think the scenarios, maybe a few things have changed. Before we would buy things on hire purchase, and it involves these amortizations, calculations as to, how did they arrive at this? Have I been cheated and whatever? Might involve slightly, some of it, especially the amortization funds involves, what I'm referring to is, especially with loan repayment and where mortgages and other general loans come in. Because what is tricky about that situation, it's unlike if I borrow $100 from Maramba and he says, no, I'm going to make 4 payments. If Maramba is not going to charge me interest, which is where the percentage comes in, then it's a very straightforward thing. I know I'll give him $25 every month, every payment, and I get there. That will add up to 100, straightforward. Now, But what then changes is if there is interest into the picture, if I'm going to be charged some interest, which is where you now need to read the fine print, because there are a lot of variables that comes with the concept of especially interest on money. We know the simple interest. That's the nice one, because it's even simple to understand. That's why it's called simple interest. Very simple to calculate. Normally, it's just calculated on the amount you have borrowed, so you know how much it is. You can easily add it onto the principal amount, divide, and see what sort of installment you're going to be paying. But what then changes is if we move, but it's rarely used unless you're borrowing from your friend, to be honest, or some of us work at workplaces because they're trying to make it cheap for you. They normally give you some interest. But if you are borrowing from someone who is supposed to be making money out of lending money, they are not going to use simple interest. They are going to use what we call compound interest.
Compound.
Now this one is interest which is calculated on balance. So which means, but that's where again a lot of loopholes then come in if you don't read the fine print. Because interest, we tend to just focus, what is the interest rate? They can tell you it's 20% per annum. Zimbabwe, I think now it's 200, isn't it? What the government is forced people to use. So you're just told it's 200% per annum. But what does it mean? Because it's not every time that you're going to borrow the money for the whole year and pay it back. What if I'm paying it in 6 months? What if I'm paying bit by bit? When is the compounding done? What I'm trying to say is, when is this interest effected? When do you regularly check on my balance and put interest on the balance? Because this is something that works on putting interest on the balance that you have currently. Unlike the simple interest, with simple interest, once we agree on a figure, I'm borrowing $100. Mr. Maramba is going to charge me 10%. So it means I now owe him with interest 110 straight away. We divide. It doesn't matter how I pay it as long as we are in agreement. I'm just paying $110 with interest. But if it's compound, because it means if I go and pay Mr. Maramba $20, then there's that balance. It also accrues some interest. Because the interest is being put on the balance.
Oh, okay.
But there are variables there. That's why I was talking about the fine print. We tend to be excited about signing these forms because you want the money and we move on. Then we go on to how often, or what is, because the interest is always quoted per annum, per year. But it doesn't mean it's done yearly, where we look at your balance after 1 year and put. It can be done monthly. Which it can be done daily.
Oh.
And it can be continuous. Where we are using higher mathematics, I'm sure this guy who did finance will understand, we actually use exponential fund. Yes to that. That's continuous compounding. So does it make a difference? That's another issue. Let's check out the complicated stuff, the continuous one, and just look at simple stuff where we are assessing, does it make a difference if I get compounded after a year, done monthly, done daily? Obviously, it's not like when it comes to the interest rate itself, if let's use a nice figure, which is, let's say it's 12% per annum, which means we can divide it by 12 and say it will then imply 1% per month. So then we can compare and see if I was to borrow $100 and my interest is going to be compounded after a year, then it will more be like just simple interest, because after 1 year it's just 12% of that, $12. What if I'm being charged 1% per month? Does it come to the same thing? I wish I had thought of it and brought my laptop and just show you some basic calculations. Look, it doesn't take, you might not see what I'm doing, but I can just show you what my balance will be after 1 year. I'm just opening a calculator. So I'm
$100.
effecting the 1%. It will come to 112 if I have compounded it monthly. Because what it means is I am saying 1% of $100, it gets added to the original principal value. So it means when we move to the month of February, we are now working out 1% of my new balance, not of 100, of the new balance. Then we get March, 1%
The new balance.
the new balance, having factored out the interest for those 2 months, it grows exponentially immediately.
So, in a nutshell, you are losing money.
You're not losing. It depends what's going on here. It could be your investment. So you could have been given the choice of how you want this affected. Let's say I'm putting in $1,000 in an investment, and I have choices of I'm being offered 12% per month, per year, or I'm being offered 1% per month, which on paper might appear like it's the same thing. But we're seeing it's not the same thing. It's a question of who is who there, which side of the coin are you on?
So we can simply say it's ignorant of mathematics that you end up losing a
Yes.
lot. And I hope whoever does this also takes advantage that we are so scared of mathematics that we don't go into the details of
Yeah, but like I'm saying things like this because these are things which affect us directly. We deal with it. There are some things you might just want to learn, not for the joy of it, but to just appreciate how is this calculated. Because you might have been making a decision on which investment to take. So I might be having these options. How do I compare these options to then say, this is the better one? Because we tend to just focus on the figure. So that's why I was trying to say, look, I could have been comparing someone who is offering me 15% per month, per year, and someone is offering me 12% per year, and then I want to know which investment is better. So I've been given things, they've got the same period. They are saying, if you put your money, we're going to offer you 15%. And someone says, if you put your money, we're going to offer you 12%. How do I know which one is a better investment? Because we are so used to just looking at the figure and not realize. So what I wanted you to see there is, it's not just that figure. It's also how the interest is going to go in. Because if we go on, I was working with it. The example I did here, I was doing actually monthly. If I go daily, it will lead to significant difference. So you might end up probably realizing that 15% can be beaten by 12%. It's a question of how. And if we ignore the how and just look at the figure, you might think you've got a good deal when actually you're losing out. So that appreciation is important.
Wow. Did we get that? Are we learning? Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Yes, today we will have also a time for us to have questions to the mathematician. I know, lastly, just to explain to us, some of these things we need we don't divert from being Christians. I hear in mathematics or in your concept, you talk about Hebrew numerology. That's a new term. Briefly, in a minute, maybe, if you can. What is it in mathematics terms?
No, I was just flat with the free time I have doing a little bit reading. Of interest to me, I think one thing as you read the Bible, you see there's a little bit of emphasis of numbers. I don't know whether you think there's any meaning to why would you be told the children of Israel were in the desert in the wilderness for 40 years. They could have just said for a long time. Does it have any relevance? I mean, then Jesus coincidentally is tested 40 days. Why 40? It's a long time. And as you read, there are a lot of places where at times you see he brings in numbers. The concept of number. There are times when they just said they had many, then they use the word many, they can have, but you can see there are times when these numbers are emphasized. And which is where this concept, when you now look at where every time a specific number was used, you see it as the same outcome. It defines a change. I'll give an example of the 40 years. What happened after the 40 years with the children of Israel being in wilderness? There was a change. That's when they eventually go. And what happens when Jesus completes his 40 days? That's when he starts his ministry. There's a change. So if you were to look for more examples, you will notice that number is not just coming. It was not just put. You will have different numbers, then stand for you. There's a pattern. It's unfortunate I don't think we have got enough time to be looking at all these numbers. But you will see that there is a trend. If you just care to look at it, you will look at it like every time 3 is mentioned, you would realize death comes in immediately. Okay. So they then emphasize it, and you realize the outcome is death. So there, every number, you look like a number like 1. It stands for the Lord himself. They will emphasize that 1, and you will notice every time we're talking about the Lord himself. So every number, whenever it's put in there, just check wherever it is, the way they put, and see what was happening here. You're going to realize there's a pattern. So there's an area of study, which I was referring to, where you are looking at those numbers. Because then now, you don't have all the numbers. This is where the mathematics then comes in to say, okay, if you look at the basic things, you're going to have certain numbers. But then you're going to have numbers that are not there. And then they are supposed to be related to the non-numbers. To say, if we are saying 50 is a jubilee year, it represents celebration. What about 25? Complete. So every time you see the word number 25 being put in, you will notice things are not well. There is an element of incompleteness there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Pure learning. Do you hear that? Pure learning. I know we'll get more time. Because of our time, we want to I might have 2 or 3 people who would want to ask questions to Mr. Muzondo. May I open this? Maybe 2 or 3. Anyone with a question? We want to know more about mathematics. We have learned a lot today. Yes, Pastor.
Men and women. Maybe is there any emphasis or explanation to the specs in terms of making up for being created, being different? Men have a tendency to forget dates and like the birthday or the number of children or when was this the date this child was born. They have a tendency to say forgetting even some of these dates. Is it like men have a problem with
mathematics?
You are talking about me there. I don't know how often I've had papers which I'm supposed to fill in and it needs the details of the children. I end up having to take it back home just to make sure I don't embarrass myself. But I think I don't think it has to do with how we are socialized. I think I would put it there, where there are certain things we do not value in our socialization as men, which is more of being Zimbabwean or being African rather than anything else. I'm not sure whether that would be consistent in other societies. But looking at the typical Zimbabwean men, they will not know the birthday of their children. But Pastor, on a serious note, if you look at these specific Zimbabweans, I want to give my example as an example. Look, which is why I'm bringing the element of socialization. Is you look back and say, when did I actually have my first birthday being celebrated? That's how I was socialized. So chances are, maybe when I met my Sue and I'm already 20-something and she's doing a birthday party for me. So obviously in me, that has not been inbuilt. So the deaths of whatever, it's not an issue. We don't diarize these things, and it's actually an important thing, Pastor, because you have actually created a diversion here, but you sometimes teach about equal yoking and whatever, because this is something which our children should understand. Because the times when we talk of unequal yoking, we are more focused on being exposed to Christianity. I'm a Christian, you are not a Christian, but it goes beyond that. Because you are going to get married to Victor, who has never celebrated, who was not celebrating birthdays, never bought his mother flowers and whatever was. This is not in my world. So obviously I do not value it. You like flowers. You like being appreciated. You want me to remember the anniversary and all these things, the children's birthdays. But I'm not socialized that way. So they will come and go. Because I will not have planned. Maybe you are forced to remind me and be very angry. And unnecessary. But again, I'm not valid. I'm just going to do it for the sake of making you happy. But it's not inside. So it creates issues. So it's part of an angle which some of these kids need to look at. Said, we have the same background. Because it will create some of these shocks. Because you think it doesn't understand, but that's not the person. It's not in there. You're forcing it in, yes, but it was never there.
Yes. I hope you are answered. Yes. I might have one more question. Yes, engineer. Might switch on the mic.
Morning.
Yes.
So in my profession, one thing I find challenging is this thing whereby you master a certain formula, let's say Pismoido's formula, and you know it inside out and you know it well. But if you go a year without using it, you completely forget.
That's very true. It goes back to the actual teaching. Because you have actually used the word master. You will not have mastered. That's the first thing. Because I think one of the problems which we're first learning is how is even this subject taught? When do you say you have learned something? Because if I could write a formula there, maybe for the sake of the young kids, I've put the quadratic formula. Is that learning? They've seen it, they know it, okay. But they have not learned it. So I know at university with especially this concept of semesters and whatever, you memorize certain formulas, apply them and whatever, but you have not learned. You can only start talking of learning when you actually have deeper understanding. It should be a conceptual thing. So the whole basis of teaching should have been taught not from a procedural point of view, because we tend to go mathematical, mechanical in the concept of teaching, where you are being taught, you get to learn. In fact, let me take something which we would experience. I remember when we were in junior school, grade 6, 7, we would have been taught things like proportion, ratio, and you would just be told, put this, the bigger one, in the numerator and whatever. Then, why am I doing it? That's what if you want a bigger one, the bigger one goes on top and whatever. But there is no understanding. Yeah, I'm just being told what works. I don't know why it works. So obviously it cannot stay. Because the way we learn, unfortunately, the concept of learning itself is based on building. We've got to have a foundation, and knowledge, as it comes in, it has to find somewhere to stick on related concepts. So you're building on. If things are just thrown like that, they will not have somewhere to stick to that knowledge, because it's a building process. So it will be there temporarily, it will go. There is no understanding. Because for you to build understanding, then there has to be connections, linkages with other concepts that you have learned. Then you will not forget it.
Wow, that's powerful, yeah? Yes. Let's clap hands. You know, it's good. You see, we have grown to this level without this information. If we had known this, I hope the younger ones are listening, we will also help them to understand. You know, mathematics is not just, what I'm hearing from the guru, it's not just a subject where you go and learn, but you need to know, why am I doing it, so that you can implement it on your day-to-day life. There is a lot, when I spoke to him, there is a lot that he has said which affects us on a day-to-day, on our day-to-day living. But I know we have another time with the mathematician. We will also create time to know more and understand more, because it's not just a subject that we were talking about. Mr. Muzondo, thank you so much. I know we have run out of time. Our viewers online, we want to thank you, want to appreciate you for joining us this morning. Hopefully you have been blessed. Hopefully there is no terminology that was used which confused you more and more, because we're talking about mathematics. But before we go, we also want to take this opportunity. You know, in the Christendom, there is no one who's dumb. There is no one that is dumb. We want to create people that know. We want to create people that fear the Lord, people that understand and who are wiser. So we are making people to be wise and wise. So we want to also take this opportunity this morning to pray with somebody who is saying, you know what, I think I've had you this morning, but I want to make a decision and change my life today and accept Jesus Christ as Lord, as my personal Savior, so that whatever that you're talking about, we might connect in the same realm. So I want to just pray with you this morning, and you move forward with your life, knowing that I have the Lord inside me and things will work for my good. So let's just pray. Let's just pray, saints, and help somebody this morning. Let's say, Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus, I thank you this morning for this opportunity that you have given me. I've heard the word. I've heard even the things that were spoken about. Father, I pray this morning and make a decision to accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and personal Savior. Father, open my mind, open my heart for more understanding in the name of Jesus Christ. Thank you. With that prayer, you have received Jesus Christ. Please go on, look for a Bible-believing church, or come and visit us at 10 Inverness Road every Sunday. Hear more of the word, hear more of these empowerment studios. Mr. Muzondo, want to thank you and appreciate you. We hope to see you soon. We were so much blessed, and I need to go back and revisit whatever that I was doing.
It was a pleasure, Mr. Maramba, and I want to thank the pastors for giving us the opportunity to share. Hopefully, we'll have more come next.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You are blessed.